When Russia attacked us back in 2014, Ukraine, under its constitution, was the country neutral without any plans to join NATO. But that did not protect us from attack of the Russian Federation. Whatever Putin is saying is actually just a blatant lie.
The aggressor should not be rewarded. It should be punished for violations of international law, for acts of aggression.
Putin crossed the point of no return long ago. No political agreement will stop his far-reaching plans.
We all just have to comprehend, unfortunately, the Third World War has already started.
Bonjour, avant Regardez L'Ukraine en Flammes, une chaîne YouTube en français par l'Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Je m'appelle Tetiana Ogarkova et dans ce projet, on vous raconte comment l'Ukraine résiste face à l'agression russe. Dans l'épisode d'aujourd'hui, nous allons explorer des décisions politiques et militaires que l'Occident doit prendre alors que l'Ukraine continue à résister face à l'agression russe. Les députés ukrainiens vont faire le rappel à l'Occident pour reconnaître que cette guerre s'étend bien au-delà de l'Ukraine. C'est un appel à l'action. Soutenez l'Ukraine aujourd'hui ou préparez-vous à déployer vos propres troupes comme lors de la Seconde Guerre mondiale. Si vous souhaitez en savoir plus, continuez à regarder cette vidéo et n'oubliez pas à vous abonner à notre chaîne YouTube pour ne pas manquer nos vidéos à venir. Lors de la conférence de Munich, Timothy Snyder, historien américain très connu, a bien commenté la situation. Il a dit « À bien des égards, il s'agit d'une guerre mondiale dans laquelle un seul pays résiste. Bizarrement, parce qu'ils ont si bien résisté, ils sont seuls. » Notre première invitée, Ivanna Klympush-Tsintsadze, députée ukrainienne, aussi présidente de la commission de la Verkhovna Rada, Parlement ukrainien pour l'intégration de l'Ukraine à l'Union européenne, souligne que l'agression de la Russie remonte à 2014 et non pas à 2022. Il répond à la question pourquoi Poutine ne se contenterait pas de l'Ukraine seulement, et elle souligne également la nécessité d'une position de défense européenne et euro-atlantique très forte, semblable à celle de Thatcher ou Reagan. Écoutons-la parler.
When Russia attacked us back in 2014, Ukraine, under its constitution, was the country neutral without any plans to join NATO. But that did not protect us from attack of the Russian Federation. So whatever Putin is saying is actually just a blatant lie. And the whole history of Russian Empire and the Russian Federation in different times, different ages, is about fighting, conquering wars. So again, there is no point of calculating whether there is any chance and probability that Russia would attack NATO country. Because we have to remember, back in December 2021, Putin was very clear. He was sending the ultimatum about Ukraine, but then he was also referring to his vision that he wants to return back to the borders of early 90s in Europe. So ultimatum would come after ultimatum and after ultimatum if there is a satisfaction of any of the appetites of Mr. Putin and Kremlin. So the only way to defend your own national interests and to provide for your national security is to upscale the support to Ukrainians and help Ukraine to defeat Russian Federation on our soil. That will also save your lives of your citizens and your soldiers. But if you still have some doubts, try to think, what would other leaders of earlier times like Thatcher or Reagan or de Gaulle or Adenauer do? Would they try to negotiate with Hitler with Putin? Or they would try to actually provide Ukraine with all the possible weapons that it needs in order to defeat the enemy. Once again, Ukraine's victory is the only possibility for Western nations to provide for their own national security. And this is pure logic, and this is pure self-preservation instinct. Who woke up Hussites if not Putin? And that is a direct threat to trade routes. If Russia succeeds, why wouldn't China try to attack Taiwan? And that's another direct threat to many national interests of the Western countries, because Taiwan is a major producer of microchips. I think there is no point of trying to calculate whether there is any probability of Russia attacking NATO. We all just have to comprehend, unfortunately, the Third World War has already started. And we don't have to make up anything, because Putin, by persuading himself that Ukraine does not exist, is trying to persuade the whole world that he is on the territory of Ukraine, fighting with the whole Western civilized community.
Ivanna souligne que malgré les appels croissants à des négociations avec la Russie, celles-ci se sont historiquement révélées inefficaces. L'Ukraine tente des négociations depuis 2008, c'est-à-dire du moment où la Russie avait attaqué la Géorgie. Plus, Ivanna va donner son commentaire sur l'interview que Vladimir Poutine avait accordée à Tucker Carlson.
We are hearing more and more voices lately that are trying to suggest negotiating with Putin. But let me underline, this different type of negotiations with Russia have been held since 2008, since the attack on Georgia. And by the way, Hitler was also appeased before the Second World War. But what it brought to Europe and what it brought to the whole Western world, it brought both war and shame. So right now, many are also trying to say, well, there is a very slim chance that Putin would try to attack any of the NATO countries. But actually, this chance does exist. And Russian Federation has already proven many times that it can act irrationally. So what would preclude it from acting so again and again? You know, we just recently watched this interview of Putin to Tucker Carlson, where this 21st century Hitler is trying to explain his attack on independent sovereign nation by some pseudo-historical analysis and non-existing NATO threat. He went so far to actually even justify Hitler's attack over Poland during the Second World War. Let me remind you, Alaska and part of California also once belonged to Russian Federation. Many territories of many sovereign states in European Union, in NATO, like parts of Finland, Poland, Baltics, have also at different stages belonged to Russian Federation. So why would not they decide to organize some provocation and return something that they believe is theirs?
Laisser libre cours aux États autoritaires ne fait que les motiver de poursuivre leur agression. Pendant la Seconde Guerre mondiale, les croyances selon lesquelles le conflit se passait très loin, quelque part ailleurs, a favorisé la complaisance. Cependant, cet état d'esprit a justement amené finalement les Américains et les Canadiens tout aussi bien à se battre.
Let's try to address the question why the support to Ukraine is important for the national security of the Western states, not even from the point of view of geopolitics or defense of Western values. Let's try to address it from the perspective of pure logic and simple self-preservation instinct. From my perspective, the whole state of the Western societies in terms of security after the Second World War can be defined as poisoned by security. Almost 4 generations without war. Definitely thriving economy, thriving possibilities. Communism has been defeated in the Cold War. The military expenses have been seriously cut, the military personnel, the numbers have been seriously diminished. Terrorism has been defined as major threat and enemy, and nobody really tried to think of any potential preparation for even defensive fight. At the same time, autocracies and dictatorships are never asking for any permissions. And what we see that Russian Federation basically back in 2008 starts its crusade against Western world. It attacks Georgia in 2008. It attacks and annexes parts of Ukraine in 2014 and goes on for starting a full-scale invasion against Ukraine in 2022. And that has to be an explanation that the more you tolerate the autocracies, the more you allow them, the more impudent they become. Back in late 30s, in the beginning of 40s, when the Second World War started, there was also very similar type of thinking that the war is somewhere far away, even though right now European nations do understand that the war is ongoing on their doorstep. But many in the US and Canada think, well, it's so far away. But that type of understanding and that type of thinking back before or during already the Second World War also led to the situation when not only money and not only weaponry was needed to push back on the evil. Later on, both Americans and Canadians had to start fighting also with the lives of their soldiers.
Notre prochain invité, député Oleksandr Merezhko, explique pourquoi l'agresseur ne doit jamais être récompensé, c'est-à-dire motivé, et pourquoi tout le monde civilisé occidental devrait soutenir l'Ukraine.
Dear friends, I would like to answer the simple question. The answer to this question from Ukrainian perspective is rather obvious, but seems like in the West sometimes we have to explain to societies and to politicians why it is worthwhile to provide aid to Ukraine. There are lots of reasons to do it. First of all, on the moral grounds. The truth is that Ukraine is committing a crime of genocide against Ukrainian nation. Its goal is to erase us completely from the political map of the world and to destroy our identity. To prevent it, to save the people of Ukraine from genocide, we need support of the whole world. First of all, from democratic states. There are also legal grounds, legal reasons to defend Ukraine, because it's not only about Ukraine, it's about international legal order. It's about international law. The aggressor should not be rewarded. It should be punished for violations of international law, for acts of aggression. There are also political reasons to support Ukraine, because when aggressor is not punished, it emboldens, encourages other potential aggressors to do the same in other regions of the world. And I truly hope that you understand the importance to provide aid to Ukraine. It's our chance to stop Russian Empire, to defeat Russian Empire on the soil of Ukraine and prevent it from continuing its imperialistic expansion and its aggression with regard to NATO member states, which will lead to escalation of the global conflict of maybe even Third World War. To prevent it, we need together to defend Ukraine and to defeat Russia in the territory of Ukraine.
Danylo Lubkivsky, directeur du Forum sur la sécurité à Kyiv, raconte comment Poutine a franchi le pont de non-retour et pourquoi aucun accord politique ne pourra plus arrêter ses ambitions. Danylo expose aussi ses trois conclusions principales sur le conflit et sur la situation sécuritaire globale. Écoutons-le.
Putin has heavily invested in Russia's war against Ukraine and more generally against the West. There should be no illusion that some sort of political appeasement, or I better say capitulation, can redirect the processes back to the previous normality or business as usual. Putin crossed the point of no return long ago. No political agreement will stop his far-reaching plans. Even more, it will increase his appetite and set an example to follow by his descendants and many other small or big dictators who would eventually try to copycat the way of doing things. Dialogue is not a Putin's choice and will never be. As soon as this understanding prevails, it will be much easier to accept new reality and elaborate practical methods of dealing with the permanent Russia's threat. There are 3 conclusions to be drawn. First, no time can be wasted. Time is the most precious asset. Putin acts quickly. After the shameful failure in 2022, he managed to regroup his forces and strengthen the offensive. He has clearly shown of having no intentions to step back. Second, their mindset should be changed. This is not Ukraine's war. This is a war in Europe. The impact of this war is felt all over the West, and there is no way to escape its severe reality. It should be met with mature responsibility. The bravery of the Ukrainian armed forces gave the Western politicians 2 vital years to get better prepared and make the right choices. Third, every effort should be streamlined at diminishing the military might of Russia and its potential to continue or repeat the aggression. It means that there is no room for any slightest compromise with the collective security. No argument, no hesitation, no self-doubt should undermine the defensive priorities. The exhaustive delivery of weapons to Ukraine, sanctions, use of Russia's frozen assets in Ukraine's interests, and the broadest international solidarity. All of these tasks must be taken with exceptional accuracy and seriousness.
C'était l'épisode de l'Ukraine en flammes, une chaîne YouTube en français par l'Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Je m'appelle Tetiana Ogarkova et nous n'allons pas tarder à enregistrer et diffuser d'autres épisodes. Dans la description sous cette vidéo, vous trouverez des informations utiles sur la manière dont vous pouvez aider l'Ukraine à continuer sa résistance face à l'agression russe. Si vous trouvez notre travail utile, n'hésitez pas de commenter ou de partager cette vidéo. Restez avec nous et soutenez l'Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!